Welcome to the overnight edition of From Day One. Art Bell is back with more of the secrets of the macabre.
I'm telling you right now, go to artbell.com, click on Todd Robbins, and then you're going to have the opportunity. Actually, you don't even have to click on him. You're going to have the you do. You're going to have the opportunity to see a video. It lasts about how long, Todd?
It was about 2 minutes or so.
No, it was actually 5 minutes and 34 seconds.
Okay.
Yeah, that's right.
There you go.
In this, without any question whatsoever, they show Todd eating, I believe, a 60-watt standard light bulb after it's been plugged in.
I used to eat 100-watt bulbs, but I'm on a diet now.
Yeah. You heard that one.
That's a joke.
Yeah. Right. But you absolutely do it. Now, a few questions. You mentioned the consistency, and I'm wondering, how do you know that all the pieces reach the consistency that you must have to survive this before you swallow it?
That's the second part of it. I want to make certain that when I talk about diet and regimen, there are things I do every day that kind of
like what?
All my intestinal tract happy with fiber and little lubricants and things like that, so that everything keeps moving. Because I don't want anything to stop on its way. I don't want anything down there thinking about doing it. I want it all moving along.
Yes.
And then before I do a light bulb, I will end up eating usually a decent meal, and if not, I will ingest as much starchy foods as possible. So when someone said eat bread, that was actually a very good thing that they suggested there.
Really?
Let me tell you, there's a little quick story. I was doing a show about the sideshow off Broadway in New York about a decade ago. It was called Carnival Knowledge, and it was about my experience working out in Coney Island and the love of the sideshow and the history of it. And a writer for the New Yorker decided he was going to do a little profile on me, and he was going to bust me. He was going to prove it was a trick. So he brought along one of the heads of gastroenterology at New York University Hospital, and Dr. Cohen, and to see the show and interview me afterwards, because he was going to bust me. This guy, if anyone would know that it's a trick, it would be this guy. And so we sat down, and I talked to the doctor, and I revealed everything. I went in much more detail than I'm going in and now.
All right, well, hold tight. We're at a break. It's a short 2-minute break, Todd. We'll come back and find out how that turned out for you. We have the video on my website of Todd eating a 60-watt GE bulb. It's a little hard to watch, and you're cringing as you watch. Exclusively on the Dark Matter Digital Network. This is Midnight in the Desert with your host, Art Bell. To call Art, please dial 1-952-225-5278. That's 1-952-CALL ART. Actually, please don't do that yet. Todd Robbins is my guest, and we're just sort of getting into what he does. One of the things he does is eat light bulbs. He has, in fact, eaten more light bulbs than any human on the planet. Thousands of light bulbs. Real light bulbs. It's not a trick. I guess in the strictest sense, it's not magic. To me, it's magic. If anybody had told me you could eat an entire light bulb and survive, I would have said it was either magic or it was a trick. But no. I'm going to mention this because my producer said, "Oh, hey Todd, can you keep a light bulb on hand?" And I haven't made up my mind about that. We'll see what the audience says. But you know what? There's a video on my website, which is artbell.com. If you click on Todd, you have the opportunity to see him without question, without tomfoolery, without any doubt. He eats a 60-watt GE light bulb. And you just can't watch without cringing And I think Todd said in the video one of the things he enjoys most when he eats light bulbs is watching the expression on people's faces. And I get it, so totally get it, because you should have seen mine. I didn't believe it, Todd, but you really do that, huh?
Yeah. It's actually, I think it's a wonderful thing because it shows empathy. It's as if I'm making you eat the glass because we're sort of one so there's a strange bond there when people experience this. They don't just watch me do this, they experience it. And
they do.
Yeah, and that's what part of the power of all this. And then it fills them with wonder, and that's a glorious thing. Because finding out what's possible in life is what drives people to do great things with their lives. And
fills you with a lot of little Ginsu knives.
Yes. Yeah.
Is it something that you can toughen to?
No, it's just something that the body does naturally. It's just pretty remarkable what the body can endure.
Okay, I've got this question. Have you ever seriously hurt yourself while doing this?
Not doing the light bulb. And I should just say that I know what I'm doing. We were talking before the break there. This doctor, this gastroenterologist, came and saw me and interviewed me and asked exactly what I was doing. And I told him all the precautions I took. And he went, I should recommend this to my patients. So he understood it was completely feasible what I was doing. And doing one light bulb in a show is not a problem. But out in Coney Island, when I was working in the sideshow there, I would eat 10 to 12 light bulbs a day.
What?
5 days a week. And so, our season started right around in the springtime, right around Easter, or would run until the beginning of October. So you do the math on that, and that's a lot of glass. And that's when you start to notice it. That's when it starts to come through. It takes about 2 days, and that's not terribly pleasant. I'll tell you right now.
You mean the...
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I can imagine.
I'm just glad I'm sitting down when it happens. We'll leave it at that. We'll let the imagination go with that.
Listen, when I eat hot tacos, I pay, so
yeah.
I can only just barely imagine. But have you ever had to go to the emergency? I guess not. You're saying not, huh?
Not for this.
Or to a dentist.
It's funny in that when I go to the dentist, my dentist often has interns or dental students that are observing, and he says, "Come in here and take a look at this guy's teeth and see the wear pattern. What do you think caused that?" They go, "Oh, he grinds his teeth at night." No. And then I explain. And in the old days, I would say, and this is what I do, and I unscrew a light bulb and bite into it and chow down on it, which would definitely get their attention. The worst thing there's two. I've hurt myself twice.
Okay.
One was swallowing a sword. The cardinal rule is you're having trouble, you stop. You just stop. If you're eating fire and the wind comes up and it blows the fire, you stop. The problem with glass eating, one of the reasons I don't encourage anyone to do it, and one of the reasons I don't teach it when I've taught people how to do things, is because once I swallow it, I can't stop it. And if it goes in the wrong place at the wrong time, I'm in trouble. I've been very fortunate. I don't really want to encourage anyone else to give this a try because it's a risk I'm willing to take, but I really don't want to encourage anyone else.
You know how when you eat sometimes or drink, it goes down the wrong way?
Yeah, you have to be very careful. You have to be very, very careful because, every once in a while I've had a little, piece get stuck in the back of the throat, and that's not pleasant, but it's very rare. The strangest thing that happened eating glass was and you're not going to find this pleasant whatsoever, but it's the kind of thing when you meet professional performers, magicians or anything. When they get together, they tell war stories. They tell about not the great shows they've done, but the terrible things that have happened that they survived. They lived to laugh and joke about it, and this is one of them. It was the 4th of July in about 1993. It was a Friday afternoon at the sideshow. We were doing a performance, and we'd done about 4 shows and had about another 4 shows to go. And I bit into the light bulb, and I cracked open a tooth and lost a filling. And I had an exposed nerve. Well, now, the show must go on. So I ended up doing the rest of the shows that day, chewing the glass on the other side, washing it down with water, keeping it all on the other side as much as possible. I then called my dentist, who wasn't in, was out of town, and I couldn't find anyone. So I ended up doing 10 shows the next day, 10 shows the next day, and then about 8 shows on that Monday of that extended weekend before I could get to a dentist on Tuesday to get that tooth fixed. Yeah. So when people go, I'm a Broadway actor and it's so tough, I do 8 shows a week, boo-hoo. When I hear about movie stars, we had such a tough shoot. Boo-hoo, try doing, 30-some shows with an exposed nerve, eating glass. Show business, it's a grand thing.
It's a grand thing, yes. All right, so my producer, I want the world to know this. She's the one behind this, not me, and not any message that I'm getting on the computer. I'm getting some messages on the computer, but my, nice little Heather back there, right? You talked to her, right? Very pleasant little girl. She wants proof. In other words, she wants you to eat a light bulb on the air. Now, I'm not sure I see the value in it, Todd, in that we have this video of you eating a light bulb, and for you to crunch here on the air would be kind of interesting, but I'm not sure that it's proof. I mean, you could have the sound of crunching glass on the phone, and that wouldn't be proof. Now,
it wouldn't be proof, but if you, there's nothing that can be done for anyone that is listening at home to really prove to them, other than if they see me do it live in a performance, really. And even then, they may be suspect about it. I always light up the bulb in a work light so people can see it's real, because if it is candy, that bulb burns for a while, and candy would melt if it gets that hot. And then I hand out the bulb and let everyone examine it. It's very funny, because years ago when I was doing colleges and universities, I had a poster that said, I'll give you $10,000 if you can prove this or any of the other things are fake.
Have you got a smartphone?
I do.
Do you have Periscope on it?
I don't have it installed. I apologize about that.
That's too bad, because, we could sort of get you on Periscope. I mean, come on, folks. Just the sound of crunching here on the radio, I don't think, I mean, this video is way beyond anything we could produce on the radio. Say if, something going wrong and you quickly having to head off to the emergency room.
But, having seen the video, now this is going to be done specifically for you. So if there's any moment here, this is, this is being done live. Oh, yeah, art for you, anything.
Yeah, but then after you've said that, now I feel doubly bad. For me, anything, all right? So if you suddenly get it wrong...
Say nice things at the memorial service, Art.
I would feel so guilty. Let's come back to this, okay?
Okay.
I haven't made up my mind on this.
Okay.
So, what other things? I mean, you mentioned, for example, somebody who can lie on a bed of nails. Now, you see, that doesn't seem right to me. You say the skin can take a lot. I've got pretty sensitive skin when I think of a bed of nails, and that's the difference between some sort of magic show and a sideshow. In a sideshow, these people are actually doing these things, right?
Yeah. thing about a bed of nails is that if you were on a single point, the pressure would be so great it probably would cause a puncture.
Well, sure.
And so it's counterintuitive. You're thinking that if you have 100 nails or 300 or 500 nails, it would make it 500 times more difficult and more dangerous. And it's just the opposite. Because the fact is now your weight is spread out all over all those points. And so there's not enough weight on any given point to cause a puncture into the skin. And you can even take it a step further and have someone stand on top of you. I know a performer, a friend of mine, he has 7 people stand on top of him while lying down on a bed of nails.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, you know what? I kind of get that one a little bit. In other words, the weight is, of course, distributed among all the nails. So, okay, maybe that makes sense. I bet it still hurts, though. I mean,
it's not the most pleasant thing, but, the irony of it is it causes a great deal of stimulation, the irritation of the nails in the back there, and it causes a flushing of the blood. And if you have a bad back, it actually can cause increased circulation and help relieve back spasms and things like that.
Oh, I have a really bad back, a really bad one, Todd.
Oh, we have to get together one of these days.
But not that bad. Todd, no, I wouldn't laugh.
Embrace the unknown.
Yeah, right. There's other ways to get flushes, you don't have to lie on a bed of nails.
The funny thing about it is I worked for I worked for a number of circuses, and there was the Russian acrobats who were, doing these things. This one guy would have, 2, 3 people stand on top of him, on his shoulders, do a 2 high or 3 high in part of the thing. And he had a bad back, and he brought out this thing, and it was a little portable bed of nails that he would lie down on and just rub his back into that to get the circulation going and help sprained muscles and muscle spasms and things like that.
I don't know. Carrying around a little portable bed of nails, good conversation starter.
Yeah. If people don't, flinch at that, then you might have found the right person. Spend some time with.
My producer follows up with, I get messages, during the show. She says, yes, let him do it. How old are you, Todd?
57 years old.
57, and you've had how many light bulbs in your life?
Somewhere around 5,000. So it's time for 5,001, Art.
What have you got there?
I've got a, what is the brand here? This is a Sylvania. I usually like the GE bulbs because, G stands for good eating. But
is there any difference in taste between the brands?
No. The ones I used out in Coney Island were mass-produced. They were a little cheaper, and everyone really what a lot of people worry about is the coating on the inside, what causes the frosting on the inside, because there's a belief, a misconception that it's some sort of phosphorus thing and it's toxic. The reality is it's kaolin. It's basically a white clay that is shot in there and coated on the inside to give it the soft white, and it is non-toxic. It's very possible in years past.
Right, but swallowing glass is toxic. I mean, if done in slightly the wrong way, or I guess this is something you can never hurry, right?
Yeah. You have to again do it and do it right, because if you don't, you can be in big trouble.
Okay. All right. So you're willingly going to do this.
Yeah.
I'm not in any way pushing you or anything else.
Only for my action.
And it's only radio, so people, you can back this up by watching the video if you want, but I mean, what you're about to hear, I'm not responsible for in any way.
Exactly.
Fine.
Shall we?
Eat.
Okay. You can hear there's the middle part, and here we go. Oh. Mm-hmm.
yourself in any danger by talking.
And this is the most dangerous part. I'm going to wash all this down with New York City water. Here goes.
What's that?
All gone. There you go.
All right, so you washed it down. You said with New York City water, ha ha ha, funny, dangerous, and then I heard another crunch.
Yeah, because it's hard to get it all down in one swallow. So it was pretty fast and everything. So, but I've still got a few little pieces in the teeth there. I know. So there you go.
That was really fast. I mean, really fast.
Yeah, well, life is short.
But I'm thinking, how do you that quickly get to the right consistency?
I know what I'm doing. I know what the teeth are going to do. I know what the front incisors and the molars and do, and then I can basically move things along.
Apparently so.
Yeah.
That was actually much faster than the one you do on video. So
yeah, because the other thing about it is there's so much shock value to this, and when people see the natural reaction is to pull back, and so I've got to really work at keeping them engaged, because the last thing I want people to do is to think he should stop. I don't want that thought. I want to keep them laughing. I joke about the glass when it goes through, which that's all about. And it's sort of answering questions as they're coming up in people's minds. So, and that's why that thing took 5 minutes to do, because I was yammering away and kind of giving all the backstory and all the things you need to know, so you can appreciate it on a deeper level than just a idiot guy. This is not, there was a TV show on MTV where they did all kinds of stupid stuff. This is not that kind of thing. I'm not just doing this just to prove what an idiot I am. I think this is just fascinating because, again, it's an expansion upon reality. It's reality. It's most amazing that someone can actually do this. I'm just happy it's me. And I'm carrying this on, this grand and glorious old tradition.
Who taught you to eat light bulbs?
I learned it from an old guy named Red Garland was his name, and he was worked and he did an act. He was known as the human garbage disposal or the human ostrich at times, and he did a whole act where he would light a cigarette and talk and throw the matches in his mouth and eat those, and then take the cigarette and eat that. And he had a big little pot of blue vase of water, clay pot, and he would drink some water, and then he would say, "Well, I'm still hungry," and he would go on, and he would take razor blades, the old metal razor blades. You probably remember these, the steel razor blades. He would chew those up too because they were very brittle. Now, when they went to aluminum, they became much more flexible, but the old pot metal steel razor blades were very brittle, and he could break those in his teeth and chew them up like I'm doing with glass. And then he would take a light bulb and he'd break it and he'd eat the glass. I started doing the technique of biting into it and spitting out the middle part and chewing it back about 20 years ago. And that's basically how I do it these days.
Will there come a time in your life when you will say, at my age, whatever that is, I must stop eating light bulbs?
When they stop paying me, and if people no longer find it amazing, I will stop. And if who knows, as I get older, if I start developing health problems that often come 1929 took this torture stunt from the fakirs of India of hammering a nail into the nose, and he made it into this joyously gut-wrenching act that when Robert Ripley, of Ripley's Believe It or Not, saw him do it in the 1930s, he said, "Melvin, you're a human blockhead," and the name has stuck ever since. Melvin's last performance was at my wedding back in October 8th, 2001. We did a performance at the wedding as part of the whole ceremony. We had burlesque, we had puppets, we had musical theater, we had magic, we had a Wild West guy doing roping and whipping, and Melvin did his sideshow act, including hammering a nail into his nose. He was 94 years old, and it was his last performance. He died 1 month later, November 4th, 2001.
Which had nothing to do with the nail?
No, I mean, he had been doing it since 1929, and he just had such joy at doing it, and he set the form for it of, if you can make people smile and laugh, it takes the stink of the shock value off of it, or it diminishes it. It's still there, but you play against that, because that's what makes it interesting. You don't make it more, you don't get into people's faces and do this and ooh, look at this, ooh, look how gross it is, because people will faint, so they'll run away.
That's right.
That's not good. You want to keep them there so they can really appreciate it, because like I say, this is just reality at its most amazing.
Most weird.
Yeah.
I would say, yes. What do you classify as the strangest performance you've ever done?
The strangest performance I ever done was actually a kids' magic show.
Oh.
Yes. It was many years ago. I got a call from an agent here in New York saying, you do a kids show? And I go, yeah. And I was doing traditional magic. It wasn't the sideshow stuff. And it was, just kind of comedy magic, and it was all very fun and everything. And I'd done birthday parties and things like that. And so, yeah, and I said, okay, well, here's the date, here's the address. It was the Libyan embassy in New York City at the height of Muammar Gaddafi's rule when he was saying death to America.
Right.
I go there, you walk in, and there's this huge picture of one of the freedom fighters, a guy holding an AK-47, a scowl on his face, and the turban, and the whole thing.
Sure.
Right there as you walked in, and I thought, well, if they don't like me, what are they going to do? Kill me?
Yeah.
And went upstairs, and it was for the embassy, the kids. It was some Libyan holiday. I don't even know what it was. But they hired me to do a magic act for all the kids of the people that worked in the embassy there. And it was interesting because all the wives were in the full burqa, and they were behind a curtain and I could not address them. I could not make any contact with them whatsoever. But the funny thing is they kept peeking around the curtain to watch what I was doing, which I found very strange and very amusing. And I was doing jokes. They all spoke English. And I'm doing jokes, and I'm doing all this kind of physical comedy with the kids, and the kids are rolling and laughing. And then these women, in head to toe with just the eyes, you could see them laughing, belly laughing under the burqas. They were just shaking, as you could hear these high-pitched laughs from these cloaked figures. And it was very strange. I was happy it went well. I was glad to get out of there.
Are you still feeling okay?
Oh, yeah.
You sound like you are.
Yeah.
I just, it's like so hard to believe, Todd, and yet I know it's true. And for any of the rest of you who
the
didn't...
fact that you say it's hard to believe, that just pleasures me mightily.
It is hard to believe. I'm sorry, but to me, whether you have ground glass or tubs are obviously worse, but ground glass is still... for example, when it goes through the intestinal tract, I don't care what sort of good foods you consumed, has a potential to, it seems to me, to eviscerate you from the inside out.
It has that potential, yes. But I took some precaution before we went on the air here, and everything is going to be going through like a broken glass spritter. There's an image for you.
Yeah, thanks for that. You've been doing this since what age?
I started learning stuff when I was about 12 or 13 years old. So, it was something like 45, about 45 years now.
45 years. So,
yeah. And I'm going to keep doing it until I get it right.
I wonder how many thousands of watts or more you've consumed. I mean, if you actually added up the light bulbs by wattage.
Yeah, that's true. It's usually a 60 or 75 watt bulb, so I can make the joke about it. I like eating 100 watt bulbs when I'm on a diet. So that,
Is there any difference, by the way, in the wattage of light bulbs?
No.
In terms of your ability to crunch them and consume them safely?
I was just saying I would use the cheaper bulbs out in Coney Island because instead of coating them, they would sandblast them as part of the process.
Right.
And they would hit the bulbs on the inside and make the glass a little bit thinner and a little bit easier on the teeth. But that was about the only thing. But as I was telling you, there's one funny little story.
All right, funny little story. Hold on to it.
Yeah, we'll come back to it.
Yes, good. Midnight in the Desert doesn't screen calls. We trust you. But remember, the NSA, well, you know, to call the show, please dial 1-952-225-5278. That's 1-952-CALL-ART. I'm going to sample some of what's been typed to me while all this has been going on. Todd Robbins is my guest. If you would like to call the show, my national number is area code 952-225-5278. That's area code 952-CALL-ART. Simple, huh? Or you can call on Skype, of course. In North America and Canada, we're MITD51. MITD51. In the rest of the world, it's MITD55. Now, Todd has much more to talk about. Here he is. But if you want a chance to talk to him, you better get to dialing or Skyping or whatever. So there is a lot more ground to cover, Todd, or people are going to think you just came on to eat a light bulb. And you're here for more than that.
Oh, yeah, I've done a number of strange things throughout my career.
Okay, well, have you encountered things in your career that you could not explain?
Yeah, there's all sorts of strange coincidences. There's one that perhaps is just a coincidence, perhaps. And I'm not terribly proud about this, but I'll make this rather quick here. I've done a lot of entertaining through the years, traditional magic walk around at corporate events, and it's a challenge, especially in New York here, because I will go into an event and I'll have a deck of cards in my hand. I'll walk up to a group of people, corporate event, and say, "Good evening. I'm Todd Robbins. I've been invited here to add a little fun to the evening. Can I do something for you?" And they'll look and you go, "No."
Yeah.
And I will say, "Well, I'll tell you what. I'm going to do something anyway. And if you don't like it, I'll refund your misery." This one event was many years ago. It was for a financial firm. I don't want to mention which one. It was for a financial firm, and I knew I was in trouble when I walked into the room, and there were 300 men and 20 women. And these guys were all bros. They were smoking cigars because part of the entertainment at this holiday event was they had a cigar roller, and they're smoking their cigars, and they're talking, and they're just jocks.
Mm-hmm.
And I go up to a group, and I say, "Good evening, I'm Todd Robbins. I've been invited here to add a little magic to the evening. May I do something for you?" And one of the guys, the alpha male of this group, said, "Yeah." And he grabbed the deck out of my hands. He said, "Yeah, I want to see a card trick. Here, Jimmy." And he turned to his friend and said, "Take a card." And Jimmy took a card. He said, "Show it to everyone, but don't show it to this." And I won't say what the name he called me.
All right, nice.
It was part of the anatomy, let's put it that way. And he said, "This guy."
Yep.
And so he showed the card around, and he said, "Put it back on the deck." And he shuffled the deck, and he shoved it back in my hand. He said, "Now find his card." And again, used a different little phrase.
Got it.
And I was like, what the heck was going on? Who are these people? And like to say that he was unusual, but they were all like that. Later on in the evening, I was doing a little demonstration of an old street con called Fast and Loose. It's the endless chain. And I preface it by starting off by saying, this is a scam, it's a con, it's a game you can't win. And let me show you how it's done. And I would lay it out there, and I would throw money down and say, give it a try. And they would lose. And I would let the money, I would throw down $20, I'd throw down another $20, and I'd show them and make it simpler for them to win. And they'd still lose, and still lose, and still lose, and still lose, until I get to the end and reiterate the theme of it, which is, this is a scam, it's a con, it's a game you can't win. As soon as I finished the demonstration, a guy came up to me and said, I can beat you at that. And I said, well, no, I guess you didn't hear that it's a scam, it's a con, it's a game you can't win. And he goes, oh, you're chicken. Now, again, he didn't say chicken, he used a stronger phrase.
Okay.
And I looked at him like, what? And I just said, well, okay, you got any money? And we played for about 10 minutes, and I beat him out of $150, at the end of it, I threw it back at him, and I said, it's a scam, it's a con, it's a game you can't win. 3 hours this went on. I was engaged for 3 hours to do this stuff, and it was a torturous affair beginning to end.
All little kings of the world, right?
Oh, there's so much so that when I walked out of there, I had but one very dark thought on my mind. Which is if I woke up the next day and found out that everyone there was dead, it wouldn't bother me.
Yeah.
Now
that's a rough audience.
Yeah, it's a rough audience, yes. And here's the quirky little thing. This is sort of like what we do in True Nightmares, a strange tale that has an ironic twist to it. All the guys in that room were working at their little cubicles there in their office.
Right.
At the top of the World Trade Center.
Oh.
About 9 months later. And all those guys are now dead.
Did you, when you found that out, after having had that thought, it must have troubled you some?
It gave me pause, to say the least. It made me wonder, and I don't wish harm to anyone. That's just a strange coincidence. You talk about dark matter. That's about as dark as it gets.
Pretty dark matter, all right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Don't mess with me, Art, because I'm a very powerful man.
So, True Nightmares. I have not watched. What's it all about?
Well, Investigation Discovery is one of the Discovery channels, one of the networks of Discovery.
Oh, yes. I understand.
And it features true crime. And they wanted to do something a little bit different, something along the lines of The Twilight Zone, or Alfred Hitchcock Presents. And so I am the host. I'm on camera introducing the stories, and the stories are all true. In each episode, we do 3 stories. And they're all about murder and mayhem, very quirky, that have an ironic twist to them. And the fun thing about it, the darkly fun thing, is you'll see a scene in which a man and woman are sitting there, and they get into an argument. She picks up a knife and is going to stab him, and the camera pulls back from the table they're sitting at. And at the other side of the table, eating a salad, is B, and I'll look up at the camera and say, and this is where things took an ugly turn. So it has this very dark, wry humor about it.
Dry humor.
That harkens back to people like Alfred Hitchcock.
And again, you need that humor, don't you, when you're doing this kind of very dark stuff?
Yes, and the thing about it is, people run to investigationdiscovery.com to find out more about these stories because they think they can't possibly be true, and then they Google them and find out they are true. And we did 6 episodes. It was our test season there, our premiere. The episodes have all aired. They do show up on Investigation Discovery. They are on Investigation Discovery On Demand if you have that as part of your cable service. Or you can go to investigationdiscovery.com and go to True Nightmares, and they have full episodes there. And the stories are wild. There's some things about serial killers. There's some things about this quirky fate. There was one story that happened a number of years ago about a woman who for a lovely day at a community pool. And she didn't swim very well, but she saw the kids going down the slide. And the water was very murky that day. There was a problem with the filtration system. I mean, it was safe, but it was cloudy. And it was one of these perfect storms of everything coming together in a strange way. Then there was very dark results. She went down the slide, went into the deep end there, and she drowned. And what people don't realize is when people drown, they usually don't flail about saying, help me, help me. They just go under the water, and they kind of submit to it, and they drown. And she sunk to the bottom. And because of the cloudiness in the water, her body was in the pool for 3 days, and no one noticed. The pool was open for 3 days. Kids swimming back and forth, families cavorting in the water, people having a great time, and there was a corpse in the deep end. Finally, after 3 days, again, the quirkiness is that some kids broke in to the pool. They climbed over the fence to take a midnight swim, and they were swimming around, and by that time her insides had bloated, there was gas, and her body floated to the top, and they were swimming around, they bumped into something, and when they realized what it was, well, let me put it to you this way, they're not going to be breaking in and swimming in pools ever again.
Right. A lot of these things are like you're eating a light bulb. You can't unhear that. Now, the range of comments is astounding. Astounding. Worst thing you ever did, Art, turning off your show, first time ever, WTF. Then that's awesome. Radio Gold. Oh my God, that's so not okay. And, it goes on and on and on. It's either Radio Gold, God, that was great, or, I'm going to turn you off. And too late, buddy. You can't unhear that. Or if you go to the website, you can't unsee it once you've seen it. So,
well, it's what you said about pickles early on, at the top of the show. It said, if you tune in tomorrow night, there'll be something different. I can guarantee it's an ever-changing landscape.
Oh, that's for sure. That's what we do here. So, why do you like the dark and the mysterious and the stuff that you can't ever unsee or unhear? Why?
Well, because it's, you were talking about this earlier. It's things, when things become homogenized, it just loses such character. And where the character comes from is really the darkness, the strange, the unusual things that happen. And this is, I think, is defining. As a matter of fact, one of the things I'm working on right now is another series, which is going to be sort of a travelogue of me going around and telling the stories about locales all across the country that these are the stories that the Chamber of Commerce don't want told about the history of places. But they're the ones that really define the terrible things that have happened there. And again, the fact that we've overcome these and survived says a lot about the human nature. And we become, the whole thing about that which doesn't kill you makes you stronger. We learn from these. We grow from these. It's not our successes. It's not our triumphs. It's the tragedies. It is the disasters. These are the things that are fascinating. And people are, you see it every time you drive down the highway, and there's a long line of people because there's an accident. And people just want to take a look. And
I know.
They want to see it.
I know. They don't admit it, but yes, they want to see it. Now, I want to bring this up, Todd, because Discovery used to be a really straight-laced network, and it was almost like, a science channel. You see it on Discovery, it's got to be true. Discovery in recent years, very recent years, has turned to horror-tainment, right? And, but you're right. You're absolutely right, and the people out there listening to me know it right now. You can't turn away from it, can you?
No.
Well, you can, but I mean, the truth is that most people decry it but watch it.
Yeah, and, there's darkness in us all, and if you acknowledge that, Carl Jung said that the best way to understand the darkness of others is to come to grips with the darkness in yourself. And I think if you understand it's there, that's the best way of dealing with it. That so you don't go down the road of these dark people that we chronicle in True Nightmares, and that you see doing awful things all around us. It just reminds us that we all have that potential, and we should celebrate the fact that we haven't gone down that road and we haven't made those choices.
Are you fairly sure that that's the effect that it has, that it doesn't cause people to, I don't know, go off the deep end? We live in a pretty weird society these days. I wonder how many people watch something like that and then emulate.
Well, I don't think that's the case. When you look in the profile of people who are doing dark things, there's usually a great deal of repression there. There's a great deal of sitting on top of all this and feeling that the world has wronged them, and so therefore they grab a gun and go off and do something very, very dark and awful to their fellow man.
They do.
Whereas if you have a little bit of a release valve by watching this stuff and knowing that you would never want to go down that route, it maintains sanity as opposed to encouraging insanity.
Okay, well, I hope that's right. But it seems like we're facing an increasing amount of this in society right now. Really crazy stuff. Or, I don't know, the media just chooses to cover more of it, but now there's more of it going on. I'm pretty convinced. How about you?
It's a tough thing. There's so many changes in our world, and people find change so threatening that many people want to revert to fundamentalism in many flavors. And that's fine. That's fine if that's what you want. You have that freedom. But when that festers and becomes the desire to destroy those which are different from you, that's when you run into the real problem. And that's what we see bubbling up, because there have been people who have made a great deal of profit by spouting hate, and that's a whole different thing than what we're doing.
Okay, you say, apparently, that there is no such thing as the truth. Now, when you make that statement, what do you mean, no such thing as the truth?
Well, when you hear someone say the truth is, or let me tell you the truth, I find more often than not what you're getting is one of two things that have been mislabeled as truth. You either get fact or you get opinion, which is people's reaction to having experienced fact, their interpretation of what fact is. And fact doesn't require any help from anyone else. The facts are facts, and they stand alone. An opinion is, like I say, people will try to put more weight behind it by saying it's the truth. And so, like I say, when someone says this is what the truth is, the chances are you're hearing either fact being presented or opinion. And now, having said this, the question is whether it is fact or opinion.
Having said all we've said, is there anything you can think of that truly frightens you?
Oh, yeah.
Really?
The IRS.
That's pretty scary.
Yeah, there are, power is really frightening. There are people out there that will use fear, and they will use influence, and they will use whatever they can to manipulate. And those are the things that frighten me, and we see so much of it going on in the political realm these days. And people that just, I made a joke on Facebook, and that I said, okay, all right, enough of this. Let's bring out the real candidates for the presidency. Come on. Okay, enough of the jokes. Let's bring out the real.
Yeah, and how did that go over?
Yeah, and people, It's not about leading a country. It's more about appealing to people to get the vote, enough votes to get in office.
All right.
It's not about...
All right, hold on right there. We've got a quick break. Presidency is an interesting topic. I'm Art Bell. This is Midnight in the Desert. Join us as you will. Midnight in the Desert. To call the show, if you're east of midnight, call 1-952. Call Art. If you're west of midnight, call 1-952-225-5278. Okie doke, everybody. Here it comes, the mini talk, and then underway we go. If you would like to, speak to my guest and ask a question, Todd Robbins, the national number, once again, is 952-225-5278. That's 952-CALL-ART, or, of course, you can call on Skype at MITD51 in North America and MITD55 in the rest of the world. And I guess I have one more question, then we'll go to the phones for Todd, I promise. And that is this, Todd. You said that... you've attended seances, right? So have you ever seen a seance that you regard as legit?
Yeah, actually.
Really?
It was an amazing phenomenon. It was on my 30th birthday. I threw a party. I wanted to play around with some table tipping, which is sort of like a large version of a Ouija board. And so I was going to gather some people together and just put them around a table and put them in the right mood and see what would come up with. And the word got out, and before I knew it, I had 50 people who wanted to come. So I rented a room and set up all these tables. And I just put everyone in the right mood, candlelight, the whole thing, and extinguished the candles one by one as I was telling them what to expect and what could happen. And it was an amazing phenomenon. What people experienced. The tables moved, people saw things, and people had imagery come to them of dead loved ones. And it was a very, very interesting and powerful experience that had no trickery, no deception to it whatsoever, other than what was going on in the hearts and minds of the people there. And people were still talking about it, and that was almost 30 years ago.
How do you come out of something real like that without being a very changed person?
Oh, I don't think you do come out of it. I think you are changed. That's the great thing about it. It just, again, it ties back to the mystery of what was going on in that room. And I don't really have answers for that.
All right. Well, look, I would like to let some people ask questions, so let's do it. You're on the air with Todd Robbins. Hi.
Hi, good evening, Art. I just wanted to say welcome back. We missed you.
Thank you.
No, you're welcome. And also, I have two questions for Todd. Todd, first of all, I live here in the Bronx, New York. My name is John. Mm-hmm. And I was just wondering, first of all, where do you appear generally? I mean, do you have shows that you go on regularly in the city?
Yes, I had a show we did off-Broadway called Play Dead, and that closed down, and we've toured that around. We're actually going to be opening that in Las Vegas, but in New York, I'm one of the regular performers and actually one of the producers of New York's longest-running magic show called Monday Night Magic. It is every Monday night at the Players Theater in Greenwich Village. You can find out more information at mondaynightmagic.com.
All right, great. Now, one other thing, I was with the NYPD for about 25 years, and I do agree with what you said regarding people having macabre part of their, internally, definitely inside them, because I've been to enough accident scenes and everything else where people just want to look and see everything that's going on.
That's right.
I don't care how horrific it looks. But the other question I had for you was, basically, do you ever get, just in general, stomach issues in general? Because I know I had food poisoning a few months ago, and, I mean, you're eating glass, and you don't get sick from it. Is there anything
food poisoning, you you think you're going to die. It's that
Exactly.
bad.
Oh, yeah. I mean, when it's food poisoning, and I've had a few strange things happen, but nothing related to the glass. Remarkably, because part of it is I have to stay on top of it and keep everything healthy down there as much as possible. So I've been very, very fortunate.
Ah, that's great. Well, thanks so much, and keep up the great stuff. I mean, you made me cringe with the chewing on the glass tonight, too, so it's definitely worth it.
Totally. But the fact of the matter is, you can do this, and at home you cannot do this.
No.
Folks, and that's the big one. I always worry, and I'm sure you must too, Todd, that somebody will try it at home. And even though what you do is real, people have to understand that if they try it, well, they do it wrong. Could they die?
Yeah, it's similar to watching Nick Walinda walk on a wire across a canyon. If you try that, you're going to die. If you watch someone do a triple somersault, if you go, or any dangerous stunt, it is a stunt that I know how to do. And if you try it, you could end up hurting yourself severely.
Well, I do appreciate the fact that what you do, which you call a sideshow, is real. In other words, it's not trickery, even though it's bizarre, maybe hard to watch, and you'll remember for all the rest of your life. It is real, so it's not hokum, it's not baloney.
Yeah.
You've really done something that has, in some way, probably changed somebody's life. All right, let's go here.
And let's not go there. We'll leave that for the evening. Come on back tomorrow night for the conclusion, part 3 of The Secrets of the Macabre. Till then, please make sure you do like, share, and subscribe. Help us get to that goal of 50,000 views. We're now got over the 25,000 mark. We definitely appreciate everybody for that on March to 50. So we can get those nice red boxes from next year's Boxy, and she can send them to us, so we can send them to you. Coinbase, iBottaGain.gg, and of course 1,000 subscribers, so Google puts us on the algorithms. It makes the show viable. And we definitely thank you as we are approaching the 100 mark on the subscribers. Till next time, make sure you do like, share, and subscribe. You be kind to one another, and always release the crackers as you march along this overnight and every overnight here from day one. Have a great night's sleep. Try to sleep tight, even though the sound of that glass may be crunching in your head. Until then, have a great night. We'll see you tomorrow as we continue to march here from day one. Stay tuned to this space because we have an important announcement coming up about a new thing heroes, titans, and pets in Dominion will all want to be a part of.